Hey guys, JMN here, welcome to my video. Today we got a little special video as I have a very special guest, fellow YouTuber Zach Reinhardt. And we will talk about the new Endon album, Through the Mirror. I would say, Zach, hello, and maybe you introduce yourself.
Howdy, I'm Zach Reinhardt. I do a bunch of music reviews, kind of similar, over on my channel, and I'm at all the social medias, Twitter and YouTube at Aimborla, Aimborla. It's an old name from a long time ago. I post every Sunday and review various Japanese music. I keep a pretty diverse set of genres going. And today we're reviewing some metal.
Yeah, I can only recommend to check this his channel out because he does some really great work, and he has also some very obscure releases which I didn't know at all, and it's cool to discover something new through your channel, right?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I try to cover the more obscure stuff when I can. I feel like it's a bit underlooked when it comes to like international people looking at it. I feel like the Japanese underground needs a little bit of a spotlight on it.
Okay, so today, as I mentioned in the opening, we are talking about Endon. Maybe you can tell us a bit about the band. How did you notice them? Because I never heard of them before you asked me for this review.
Yeah, so this is Endon's second album. And I haven't actually heard their first album, so this is my kind of first run-in with them as well. I first heard about Endon through the lead singer of a band called Loop Rider, who he mentioned them in an interview, and me and him have pretty similar tastes in music, so I always check out stuff he's listening to. And this album just really kind of surprised me in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be cool to I thought you might find it interesting as well, since you're a bit more steeped in the metal stuff.
When you mentioned this album, I had to check it out, and there was this music video for their song Your Ghost Is Dead, and I played it once and I thought, wow, what is this? It's just such a great mix of like black metal and some hardcore grindcore stuff. Also this kind of like wall of distortion, this noise element to it, and I thought it's a strange mix, but somehow it worked out in a really good way. And once I finished this video, I just had to click it like 2 or 3 times more. And
yeah, the band is just nuts.
Yeah.
They're crazy. But yeah, like you said, there's a bunch of like noisy electronics. The band is a 5-piece, and they just have drums, guitar, vocals, and then 2 guys who do electronics and just noise, basically.
Yeah. So it kind of replaces the bass in their band, right?
Yeah, there is a little bit of bass on the recordings sometimes, but it's not. It's just clearly something they did after the fact. But yeah, what did you think of the first track, Nerve Rain? The intro.
Honestly, it was just like how should I say, a very nice build up, kind of like a wall of sound or something. So this guitar keeps playing, then it randomly stops, and you think now they start with the next track, and then it starts again with this guitar and over again. So it's really a nice build up to catch the attention of the listener. And
yeah, I thought it was a great kind of introduction to the album. It's a big distorted wall of sound.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is makes the second track, Your Ghost Is Dead, which I already talked about, way stronger, more effective. This build up leading into this song, so to say.
Yeah, what I found really interesting about Your Ghost Is Dead is a lot of the guitar work is pretty clean, actually.
Yeah, that's a bit unusual for this album, I would say.
And I think they can kind of pull that off because I think like the noise serves the purpose of the big distorted guitar. You know, it takes up all that space, and as a result, the guitar kind of can do all these weird things that normally it can't do, just because it needs to be that kind of wall of sound in a lot of records of this genre.
Also, what I liked about the song was this great song dynamic. It slowed down a few times for these melancholic guitar breaks, and the singers starting to randomly almost cry in his performance. And I must say, I really like the song, and also this makes it maybe this song structure a bit one of the more memorable songs on the album, because the other ones are way harder to understand. Or
yeah, I agree.
More complex.
This song switches around between like really kind of lighter parts and really heavy like grindcore stuff.
Yeah,
a lot. I was just gonna comment, like, the vocals are also, as you said, just he goes crazy. He sounds deranged.
He sounds like a madman. Yeah, I don't know that you watched some of their live shows. I went on YouTube and watched some performances of them, and their singer is really kind of crazy. I mean, you really notice how he is emotional involved in this music, and he can't still stay still. Always, if he didn't have to sing a part or something, he started to move and vibe, and yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of their live stuff, but I'll have to look up some videos.
Yeah, but I can really recommend this because I think it adds their sound to another level to watch them live. This was also one of the reasons that they made this Mama in Concert record in 2016, where they played their music live and re-recorded this to give the studio album another dimension, so to speak. We had this, we talked about this grindcore influence. It reminds me a bit of the band Full of Hell, if you know this band.
Yes, I thought that too. Full of Hell.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the band was kind of pitched to me as a grindcore band. I that's what I kind of thought I was getting into when I came in, but they're just so much more diverse than that. Also, the synths on Your Ghost is Dead remind me a lot of Emperor. The kind of like big kind of symphonic chords.
Yeah, it has this epic touch, definitely. I was reminded slightly more of post-black metal bands, you know, what's modern these days, like Death Haven or stuff like this, these ethereal sound guitar play, and yeah.
That's where you're a bit more kind of knowledgeable than me. I haven't listened to a lot of kind of the more modern black metal stuff, so a lot of my frame of reference is that older 90s stuff.
Yeah. Also, where were you talking about these bands? The vocalist and these strange noises that he makes in many tracks, for example, in Born in Limbo, where he has a really, really strange vocals performance. And it reminds me of the Swedish band Silencer. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I have not, no.
It's a depressive, suicidal black metal band, and they have this really sick vocalist who also always makes these very high-pitched shrieks and these unpredictable cry outs and all this word noises.
Yeah, Born in Limbo is kind of like a big vocal like collage of just stuff, and then there's also a song underneath it just for good measure.
Actually, I almost got some rock or punkabilly vibes from the guitar play in this song.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a like punk influence, like kind of a Minor Threat thing that I hear on a few of the tracks on here that they kind of reference. It actually more reminds me of like the kind of hardcore punk / like thrash stuff that was happening in the 80s, like Suicidal Tendencies or something. But yeah, Born in Limbo, what a strange song.
I didn't really know what I should think of this song when I heard it the first time, and to be honest, after listening it another time, it still didn't make sense to me somehow. But it has this artistic style. It's really interesting. You don't know really what they want to express with this, but it's just nice to appreciate their word song.
Yeah, so I think a fair amount of it is like samples, because there's just so much stuff going on. It can't all be him. But I don't know if they're samples of the vocalist or if they're like animal noises. It's
I actually think it is the vocalist, right?
Yeah, it's just so crazy. He's constantly like gasping and kind of choking, and he does like these weird like yodeling and shrieking.
This also brought me another band to my mind, Dion Gray. I know we already talked about this in the YouTube comments, and you said you're not a big fan or you're not into them as much. But nowadays they also have these strange vocal experiments on their albums, and some tracks are getting really close to this sick performance. For example, they had a song, Agitated Screams of Maggots, and it's a more metalcore-like song, but then they make an unplugged version, which sounds completely differently, and you have just this piano play with really weird structures, and then their singer Q has these really weird voices. He starts to scream, to cry.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I haven't listened to a huge amount of Dion Gray. Just mostly a lot of their kind of older stuff when I was first getting into like Visual K back in the mid 2000s kind of thing. So moving on, the next track, Pensum, is a bit more of a kind of typical metal track. It's got a bit more of a typical grindcore.
Yeah, it's 1 minute and 38 seconds. It's very short, very hardcore influenced, and then they have these fast grindcore outbreaks. It's kind of cool, but I have to say, for me, it was one of the weaker tracks on this album, because there wasn't as much going on as in the other songs.
Yeah, it just wasn't as experimental and kind of just mind-blowing as some of their points on here. It's just a bit more of a typical track, and I think they pulled it off well, but it's nothing groundbreaking like Your Ghost Is Dead is or anything.
I almost feel like the next track, Post-Sex, is like what I would have expected from this track, because it has also these grindcore outbursts, but it starts with this ambienty soundscape at the beginning, and toward the end it slows a bit down, and so it basically adds something additional to the sound of the track Pensum.
Yeah, it sounds like a kind of similar line of thought, a kind of similar idea, but just taken in a bit more of an extreme direction, and also it's much longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, there's that big breakdown towards the end and that like ambient synth intro. It's a pretty diverse track. Now, this is probably my favorite track, the next one, and I'm really interested in what you thought. Perversion Till Death.
Ah, yeah.
The 10-minute epic.
Yeah. Once again, it starts with this big wall of sound, with this heavy distortion and everything. And then it goes more into the down tempo. It's one of the first. Okay, Born in Limbo was a bit slower, but it's the first time when they really take the break and slow down. And I felt from these massive riffs behind the distortion that they almost got in the territory of sludge.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It's like kind of doomy. I actually was reminded a little bit of Electric Wizard, if Electric Wizard was a bit insane.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
But yeah, it was heavy as hell. And especially when they get to that like big kind of breakdowny part towards the end.
Yeah.
Where it's like jun 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 where, like it's so big and kind of cheesy, but it's really just heavy, and I think it works out really well.
Yeah.
We get more of the gasping, crazy vocals as well on the ear.
Definitely a great track, and something pretty unexpected.
Yeah, I'm a real sucker for that kind of doom metal stuff. Bands like Boris and Electric Wizard are some of my favorite metal bands, and so it really was right up my alley.
I mean, Boris is also, it seems like it's closely tied to this band. I mean, they made a split CD.
Oh, yeah, they did. I haven't heard that. I need to check that out, though.
And I think also on their Buddies remix album, they had also some tracks or collaborations with Boris.
Yeah, Boris is another just great Japanese metal band that goes all over the place in their discography.
Yeah. To be honest, I never really got deep into them. I heard a few tracks and everything sounded different.
Oh man. You gotta listen to. You have to listen to Heavy Rocks, the first Heavy Rocks. They have 2 albums called Heavy Rocks.
Okay.
You need to listen to the first one, and you need to listen to Pink.
Yeah, so I would say we are moving on, or to Through the Mirror, the title track. I have to say, it starts surprisingly melodic and also has these amazing clean guitars in the end. And this all is in combination with this fitting, highly emotional screams. I think it's really a good fusion between black metal and grindcore. Also one of the more memorable songs on this record, because the other songs were also cacophonic or unpredictable, and this is a bit more structured in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a little less chaotic, but not any less impactful. I think actually more so. It's one of the more memorable tracks on here, especially with that big kind of epic melodic ending to it.
Yeah.
I think it... So I have this theory about the structure of the album, where it kind of starts off really dense and crazy, and ends in a more melodic part, as we'll kind of explore in the next track. And this, Through the Mirror, is kind of the transition track, where we transition from that like heavy, thick grindcore that we get at the beginning into the more melodic stuff that happens at the end of this song.
It's actually pretty interesting. I didn't see it like this, but yeah.
Yeah, I just thought of it like today as I was kind of listening to the album as well. Like the structure seems to be like some sort of like a redemption story, almost kind of climbing out of some dark place.
Makes sense. And talking about melodic, also, I would say we move on to the last track, which is probably my...
Torch Your House.
Yeah, probably my favorite track on this album. Again, this time it starts with this atmospheric kind of post-rock-like introduction. Yeah. And then it turns to into a very depressive down-tempo song with these desolated screams. And also you have this repetitive drum pattern, which is kind of hypnotizing in my opinion.
Yeah, the song is really kind of triumphant, I find, at points. Like, it's really kind of uplifting and hopeful, its tone is.
Hopeful, actually. It's interesting, because for me it sounded kind of depressive, to be honest. So,
like... Yes, during that really kind of tense, like, change that they do in the middle of the song. But during that kind of, like, during that main kind of riff that they kind of hammer down with that really repetitive drum melody that you mentioned, like, I think it sounds a little kind of uplifting. But, you know, it's up to interpretation, of course. Yeah, though it does turn a bit sour in the end, in the very end, when it kind of goes back into metal. But I was really surprised with how post-rocky this track was. It really seems like Endon attempting to do post-rock in their kind of insane, screamy, noisy way.
Yeah. And maybe that's interesting. I mean, it's the last track. Maybe this is an indicator for something they will do in the future.
I'd be interested to hear it. I mean, post-rock needs a kick in the butt. It's been a little stagnant.
Yeah, I mean, Japan has some great bands like Mono, for example. I really love this band. Would be interesting to hear more from this direction, because it was something really special. And
yeah, I've never heard somebody do post-rock in quite like such a discordant kind of like crazy way.
Yeah.
Like, he's still screaming, there's still this kind of wall of noise in the background.
Yeah, and this is, from my feeling, it's another connection to the post-black metal bands. There are bands like Autumn for Crippled Children, Deathhaven, as I mentioned, maybe Landlos, which are all fuse these post-rock elements together with these cold black metal. And
yeah, I was really, really impressed with that track, and really impressed with like just how diverse the album is.
Oh yeah.
Overall, it explores a ton of like it definitely has its roots in like grindcore, and it has a lot of black metal like influences, but it really explores a lot of stuff outside of that.
What's great about this band is you really, got an idea what the band is about. They have this certain style which is kind of familiar. You have always this distortion, a bit of depression, there are some fast parts, and they have really that kind of songwriting. But however, their songs turn out completely different every time, and this is interesting. They have this memorable style where I know, okay, this band this way, but they still don't become repetitive, which is a really good quality to their songwriting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking out more of this band in the future. I'm really just interested to see where this goes. And I got to catch up on their old album as well, especially that Boris collaboration.
Yeah. Would be interesting. I mean, just we can give them some advertisement. They have a Bandcamp page where you can go listen and buy their first album, Mama. So.
Yep, and hopefully this second album will end up on that Bandcamp page at some time. If not, it's also available on Amazon.co.jp and CD Japan and all those kind of Japanese CD sites, which is where I ended up getting mine.
Pretty cool. If I read it correctly, they released it also on vinyl and classic cassette.
Possibly. I actually just heard a few days ago they're planning a European and US release. So actually, if you just wait for a while, it might be available locally.
Ah, that's cool.
But, or at least available on some site that ships to those areas.
These are the connections again, because the album was produced by Kurt Ballou, or however you pronounce him, from Converge. So they have definitely their ties to some Western artists and labels.
That seems to be the case for a lot of Japanese metal, I find. It seems to, like, the metal scene internationally seems a lot more able to accept these bands that speak in different languages, and I guess it's because the metal scene is so diverse. Like, you've got all these bands from Scandinavia, and you've got all these American metal bands, and there's a lot of like Latin America metal bands, and there's a lot of like more continental Europe metal bands. Yeah, like in Boris is another case, and same with Melt Banana, or like kind of Japanese metal crazy bands that get a lot of attention.
Yeah, I think the metal scene is kind of searching for an own identity, because if you have, for example, the United States, you have Bay Area thrash, you have these Cascadian black metal bands which appear nowadays. Then you go to Scandinavian countries, you have Norway with the black metal, and then Finland with these doom, death metal, melancholic bands and all this stuff. Everything has a certain style, and in Japan, I don't know, there isn't really a trademark sound to a certain wave of them.
Yeah, they don't really have like one unified scene.
But I think that's the great point, because this is allows bands like Endon to create this really crazy sound. And I think always, if you think about Japan, you think always they're a bit crazy, right? And then you have bands like this, or even the more mainstream bands like Maximum the Hormone, which have these really great and interesting genre mashups.
Yeah, they always seem to be, and this is something that is really present in the punk scene and stuff that I follow very closely as well. There's like this kind of reckless abandon and like complete just willingness to experiment in some really weird ways, which is one of the things that makes the scene so interesting. I think. But yeah, I guess if I was gonna say like Japan's sound, they do have a few like kind of doomy, heavy, like droney metal bands like Boris and like Church of Misery that are kind of known. But they've also got like Intestine Ballism, if you've ever heard of them, which are just like a straight up death metal band. They're pretty good. And Yeah, crazy stuff. And also Loop Rider is a kind of metal adjacent band that I their singer is the one who turned me on to this band.
Yeah.
And I just reviewed their new album last week, so come on over and check it out.
Yeah,
But,
go to this channel.
if you but if you were going to give this thing a score, what are you thinking?
I actually asked myself, so it's very, very hard. I mean, it's a good album for sure. It is interesting, it is experimental, it is progressive, it adds something new to the world of music. But also, it's a bit hard to understand at times, right? So
Yeah.
I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10, which is way above average, and it's a good album for sure. So what would be your score if you had to...
Well, I come from kind of like a more chaotic, noisy background, I guess. So this is a little more at home for me. A little less out of my comfort zone, though it's still certainly abnormal and kind of crazy. I was feeling like a 9 on this album. I thought it was really good. I did think like there were a couple points where they were doing some kind of cheesy metal stuff, especially on some of the guitar solos that pop up every once in a while.
Yeah.
They're pretty like cheesy shred solo. But overall, I really liked this album. There wasn't a track on here that I thought was bad or that I wouldn't listen to again. And I'm definitely going to be keeping this close at hand moving forward in case I ever want to listen to this again.
As I said, I'm really interested to see what they will become in the future, how they will change their sound. Maybe some more post-rock influences, who knows? Would be interesting at least.
Yeah, at this point they can go in just about any direction.
Yeah.
But so I think that about wraps up the review.
Yeah.
And I'll just say once again, I'm over on YouTube. I assume probably put my links in the description or something.
Yeah, you will find links in the description. Go check him out. Really great content. I really love his videos, and it's really great because you can always discover something new over there at your channel. So
yeah, I try to keep a lot of try to put an eye on a lot of kind of unknown bands when I can. Though I also cover the odd J-pop release if it comes out and I'm interested.
Okay, it's not so my territory. Yeah.
I don't know. There's a little bit of interesting J-pop stuff going on, though I'm generally not too involved with it. But there are a few interesting artists that are pushing it forward.
For example, I know you had a review for this Necronomidol, and I had a review for this. And I think this is a really cool example that pop music can also be artistic.
Yeah, the whole anti-idol quote unquote scene is something that's kind of interesting to me. I'm not quite sold on it. Like I'm not quite convinced that it's producing a lot of great music, but it's definitely at least interesting to kind of watch from the sidelines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being here.
It was a pleasure.
It was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And hope we can review some more stuff in the future sometime.
Yeah, I would be totally up for it. So this was Zach Reinhardt. Check his stuff out. And yeah, thanks again for watching. Have a great day.